Another restaurant in this mall closed, and they left food out everywhere. And it's been closed now for about 3 or 4 days, and it's really starting to smell. The smell is permeating through the rest of the mall. Not cool. Alright, so it's a beautiful Saturday night here in Shadowland. I'm sorry, as I'm recording this, some traffic's going to go by, but that's something that you're definitely going to have to get used to when you're here. There is absolutely no time of the day or night where it is quiet. Go inside, close your doors, and try and get some sleep, but the walls are thin and your neighbors make a lot of noise, honking the horns of all the motorbike taxis, and especially the big trucks. Those are the ones that they have these very, very loud air horns that scare the shit out of you when you're on the road, but you definitely know that they're there because they're not going to stop for you. You got to stop for them. So what does it take to get a Z visa? Let me just preface this by saying that I'm going to tell you the story of how I had to get mine back in late 2015, so a little over a year ago. And things have changed since then slightly, and they are looking to change again next year. So whatever I tell you in this video, keep in mind that that may not be everything, or it may be too much. It all depends on what city you're coming from, what city you're going to, a ton of other intangibles, things that I might not have thought about, or that might be required of you. Basically, there's a lot to go into this. So again, I will tell you my story, and yours could be easier, it could be harder. So keep that in mind. The first thing you're doing, obviously, is you're looking for a job. You can do that online via Skype. You can come here and look for a job and interview. Once the interviewing is done and you've found a match, a company that you like, and you've done your homework, you've done your research on that company, making sure that it is a good company, one that's not going to screw you over, one that will pay you on time. You've talked to the other foreigners who work for that company to ensure that you're going to a good place. The first thing that'll happen is they will email you an offer letter. In this offer letter will have all the the pay, the duration of the contract that you're expected to sign. This is not a contract. This is just something saying, yes, I accept these terms, and I'll leave it up to you to negotiate these terms. By the way, always negotiate. Always try to get more than what they first initially give you. It's common practice here to often lowball and to negotiate salary and other terms of the contract. Now, prior to this, you should probably start collecting your paperwork, and it sounds difficult, but I didn't believe it really is. Now, I had the added advantage of coming from the Los Angeles area. Number one, they had a Secretary of State office that's the state Secretary of State, not the federal Secretary of State. But they had one in downtown LA, and it was just a few blocks away from the Chinese consulate. So that made my life very, very easy when it came to processing this Z visa. So the first thing I had to do is get my college degrees, and I had to get them notarized. So you go to the county in which your degree was issued. For me, as Los Angeles County, and I got it notarized by an LA County notary. Don't notarize your originals. Make copies and get the copies of it notarized, photocopies. It's perfectly fine to do that, and that's what the consulate's going to want. After you've gotten it notarized, it's a few bucks, doesn't cost me. You can do it at a UPS store or just look it up online. Then you're going to have that notary certified, and you do that at the county county recorder's office. And in LA there's a couple of them, but only a few of them actually do certifications of the notaries. Basically, you're authenticating that the notary that you had do your degree is indeed a certified and registered notary. For me, I did it in Norwalk, which is one of the same places where people go get married. So there were a lot of like brides and grooms walking around when I was just going to get this certification done. After you've got the degree, the copy of the degree notarized, and then the notary certified, then you have to go get an apostille from the Secretary of State's office. You get that done at the Secretary of State for your state. And in California, there are 2 places. There's one downtown Los Angeles, and of course at the Capitol in Sacramento. You'll have to check your home state of where that is. Keep in mind, of course, everything that I'm telling you is based on Southern California, California in general, and Americans. If you're coming from Canada or Australia or someplace else, I really can't help you. I have no experience with that. Then you have to get your FBI background check. Now you can go to the local police department and get it done. However, there's a backlog and the scheduling is usually a couple weeks away. You can have that done at a UC campus. Usually the campus police are California peace officers, and they're able to provide that service. Again, it doesn't cost very much. Of course, I'm talking about getting your fingerprints done. I elected not to do that. I instead went and got my fingerprints electronically scanned and sent them to the FBI headquarters electronically at a company. It was near Disneyland, actually. It was about $90 to have that done, but it was pretty quick. And within less than a week, I had my FBI report back from the federal government. And it's better than waiting for the fingerprints and sending them via mail and then waiting a couple weeks for them to come back. It's much quicker. It's worth the extra money. I highly recommend it. Now, that is a document that you also need to get an apostille for. You don't need to do the notary and the notary certification on that one. However, you do need to get an apostille from the Secretary of State. Now, because it's a federal document, it's not clear if you need a federal apostille or a state apostille. I got the federal one done. However, I took that to the consulate. Apparently they didn't need it, so I went down a couple blocks and got it done at the state, and they accepted it there. So those are the 3 or the 2 biggest documents that you need to get apostilled: your college degrees and your FBI background check. You will also be sent a copy of your contract. Now, if this is a true and final copy of your contract, just go ahead and sign it, send it to them, and you're good. However, I find that sometimes it's just a mock contract, one that your employer is going to need in order to apply for your invitation letter. If that is the case, and the terms on it aren't what you want finalized, then get it in writing that this is, get it in an email or something like that, that you will sign a new contract when you arrive in China. And you have to have a valid passport, obviously. And your passport, I think you need at least 18 months of validity. I think that's what it is on your passport before it expires. You'll have to submit all of this paperwork with your passport, and they're going to keep it all while they process it. The Chinese consulate will keep it all. You also need a medical check. The medical check is pretty simple. There's a form. It's in both Chinese and English. You take that to your doctor or to a walk-in clinic, and they perform the various tests of the blood work. They have to do some lab work on the blood. You also need an X-ray done, and all of this costs, a couple $100. Even without insurance, it's pretty cheap. It's just a couple $100. Your company should reimburse you for this if you're being reimbursed the cost of the Z visa. Now, before you apply for the Z visa, there's a couple things that have to happen, and this is a new process. First, your college degrees now have to be certified by the Chinese consulate in your home country. So if you're from the United States, they have to be done by the Chinese consulate in your home country, certified that they are true and correct by the Chinese consulate there. You cannot get that done here in China. So you submit an application for certification of your college degrees after you've gotten the notary and the notary certification and the state apostille on it, and that takes about a week. And it costs some money too. But what they do is they basically, they put their stamp of approval on it, and that's very, very important. So now that you have the medical check, you have your offer letter, and you have your degrees that are certified by the local consulate in your home country, the local Chinese consulate in your home country, then you FedEx all of that to China, to your employer. From there, your Chinese employer will take all that information and start securing you the invitation letter to then apply for your Z visa. Your Chinese employer will then send back to you your invitation letter and a bunch of other little paperwork that is in Chinese that you'll have to use, including your degrees, your health check, and all that. And you're going to package all of that up with your Z visa application and submit it to the consulate for your final Z visa. This can take up to a week, and when you get your passport back, after you've submitted it, of course, then you will have your Z visa actually pasted into your passport. For me, this whole process took about 3 to 4 months. Keep that in mind. You're not going to be able to do this in a couple weeks. Now, I have heard of other people doing it in a couple weeks through some kind of visa services program, and they were going to a different city. However, my city here in Zhongshan is kind of old school, and they follow everything by the book. Therefore, I was required to do it this way. I have another friend of mine, an American here, who came from Cleveland, and the closest Chinese consulate for him was actually in New York City. So he had to do all of this via Amtrak to get to New York City. Once you have your Z visa in hand, then I recommend you buy your plane ticket. Don't do it before. Don't tell them when you're coming yet. Don't have a definite date until you have your Z visa. There's so many things that might go wrong with this process, or take longer than you had anticipated. So wait. One-way tickets are fairly cheap, so when you get your Z visa, then buy your plane ticket and make the plans on coming here. Once you arrive in China, you have your Z visa, and you get to immigration. They will look you up and down. They will double check, make sure it's good, and then you get it signed off and stamped, and then it's canceled. It's a one-entry visa. You won't be able to leave China again. Okay, so you enter in, it's canceled, and then you have 30 days to convert that into the residence permit. It will be the next video on how to convert your Z visa into a residence permit, or everything that you will be expected to do once you arrive in country. The whole process does cost some money, and hopefully your company, if you negotiated, your company will reimburse you when you get to China for these costs. In all, I paid, it was around $400 to $500 total for all the paperwork to be done, and the application and all those fees, the health check, everything. Again, this is my story. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is what's going to be required of you. It might be more, it might be less, it might be something different. But this is what I had to do at the end of 2015. I was the first one of the foreigners at my company that had to go through this particular process. And then again, next year, the rumor is that it will be changing again. So do your homework. You become the expert on what you need to be done. Don't rely on your company, and don't rely on me or other people. Do your homework, become the expert on everything. That's my biggest advice I can give any newbie coming to China. Seems like a lot. It really isn't. It's just a lot of patience and a lot of diligence, and you can get it done. I hope that this video helps you to understand the process a little bit more.